All right, we are live now. So let's start recording and get into it. Who made it red?
Dude, wait.
Will did.
Oh, it's
I didn't
it's
make
just because
anything red. What are you
Never.
talking about?
It's because like you typed
Oh.
it and your
Okay.
characters are. All right. Let's
Because
go.
my pictures are Ovechkin. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So start recording. Yes, we are recording. All right. Let's start in 5, 4, 3. Wait. Now let me post the the link first so that I don't have to like wait until I do the intro to post it. All right.
If
all right.
it
I'm gonna make this as fast as I can.
if it randomly goes dark, it's because my power went out. I think the power next door to us and the other dorm went out because it's
I
just
really hope my
it's
power
snowing
doesn't
so
go
bad.
out.
It's snowing so bad here right now.
Dude, imagine our live stream just cuts and the call
In
cuts.
good old Morgantown.
Jake's like, yo, got invited to a party. I meant it's snowing really bad outside.
Yeah.
Where are you guys at in terms of the world?
I'm at West Virginia University right now, but I'm from Gaithersburg originally. So.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you got all kinds of snow there.
I'm still at home. I'm like 15 minutes down the road from Jake, so I'm at the bottom of Moco. But all right, so
okay.
Go ahead.
I'm currently at the University of Texas, but I grew up in Germantown.
Okay.
I go to Frostburg, but I'm at home until Wednesday. All right.
Okay.
Let's get going. We got her up now. All right. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pizzas Here podcast, your home for all content surrounding the Washington Capitals. Today we're joined by a very, very special guest. It's not a dream. It's not a desert mirage. It's John Walton, the Washington Capitals radio play-by-play announcer since 2011. Before the Capitals, John served as our AHL affiliate Hershey Bears play-by-play voice for 9 years, a true legend. Thanks so much for coming on the show today, John. How's it going?
Fellas, it is great to be with you. Thanks for having me, and thank you for that lovely introduction as well. That was a pretty good moment back in the day.
Thank you. I tried my best writing that like 10 minutes ago. I'm glad you like it.
That's the way I used to study at school, by the way. In the last 10 minutes, I better learn something.
Hey, I mean, you ended up in a good spot, so I guess I'm not doing everything wrong.
Yep, you're on the right path. You're good.
So we've got a bunch of questions for you today, so let's just fire through them. But like I said, you've been the play-by-play announcer for the Capitals for over 10 years now. But what was your journey like up until this point? Obviously studying 10 minutes before tests, but how'd you get here?
Yeah, don't take geology classes at 8 o'clock in the morning. I did that once, and I dropped that after about a week. So.
I had a geology class at 8 a.m. in the morning my freshman year.
Did you really?
Yeah.
It's that, boys, at the end of the day, they're just rocks. Like, it's tough. Yeah, that was my 8 o'clock class for about a week my sophomore year. I said, I'm not doing this again. But other than my geology class I didn't hang around for, I grew up in Minnesota. I was a fan of the Minnesota North Stars as a kid. I followed the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers. My dad actually taught at the University of Minnesota, so I kind of had that in the blood a little bit. And then my mom got tired of the winters, so we moved to Ohio before high school, which I got to tell you, fellas, was not the greatest hockey area in the late 1980s. So I was a little bit destitute of hockey, and I ended up following a college program when I was in high school. Kind of became a fan of then the Miami Redskins, now the Miami Redhawks, in Southwest Ohio. I ended up going to school there. I ended up doing play-by-play for the student station there. Then I was doing it for the commercial station there. And then I ended up getting the job with the Cincinnati Mighty Ducks in the AHL, which was my first pro job. In the middle of all that, I ended up being the PA announcer for the Reds, which was crazy, ridiculously great. And then my big break in terms of hockey was I got the job in Hershey. At the time that I got the job, they were affiliated with Colorado. But in 2005, we told Colorado to take a hike, and we brought in the Caps. And that was maybe the greatest single thing professionally that ever happened to me, because that put me on a path to hang out with Bruce Boudreau, won a Calder Cup. Then he came to Washington, and then I came to Washington, and then I got to do some other cool stuff along the way too. So it's been quite a journey to get here. It's been quite a journey since I've been here, but no other job I ever wanted in my whole life. I knew I wanted to do this when I was about 16, 17 years old, and I'm lucky that I still get to do it.
Damn, that's crazy.
I think
so
a
you've
hell yeah
always
will
wanted to be-
suffice as a response.
Yes, I don't know if you've always wanted to like do that, because I think that was something I wanted to ask. Is like if was something else that happened and you were like, this actually is pretty cool. I want to try this, but you've always wanted to be an announcer. That's pretty cool. But
Well, I couldn't be a right wing for the North Stars. This was the best way to stay in hockey.
Yeah,
I wasn't gonna have any skates on my feet. So
right. So obviously the Stanley Cup run should be every Caps fan's best moment ever. Describe that kind of cup run from your perspective. Like, how did it feel and all that stuff?
it was the greatest postseason ever. I mean, I got to be a part of 3 Calder Cup champions at Hershey, so I kind of knew what the journey felt like, but it's not anywhere close to what it happens at this level when you're the last 2 teams standing and you're in Las Vegas for Game 5, and you really believe that this is actually going to happen. I mean, Evgeny Kuznetsov's kind of set the table, I guess, going back to the Pittsburgh series. But by the time that you got to Vegas and by the time that you had, I knew, listen, I didn't grow up a Caps fan. I didn't grow up here, but I've got a lot of battle scars too. Like when Derek Stepan scored in overtime in Game 7 after blowing a 3-1 lead. And I really thought that was the best chance to win Barry Trotz's first year. I really thought they were going to win it that year. I did. And even more so maybe than the Pittsburgh series in 16 and then in 17. And to be able to watch what happened all the way through that postseason, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there in Las Vegas of all places in Game 5, and Eller scores, and in that last 7 minutes, that was like a lifetime of memories just in those 7 minutes, because under 6 guys, they go to the last TV break. Like the Caps have the lead, and you go to break, and you've got 90 seconds to think about what's about to happen, first of all, and you hope you get the call right, because I know you guys have had Joe B on the show. Listen, we don't plan what we say ahead of time. We just, whatever comes out, and we hope for the best. So you're hoping to get it right. Question. Yeah, I mean, you do. I mean, you want to try and get it right. And so you've got about 90 seconds to think about it. And the NBC television monitor is off to my right, and I don't see the commercials. I see what they're coming back with. So I know what the TV audience is going to see in about 60 seconds. And what I saw, I still get a lump in my throat when I think about it, because they showed outside. It was coming back, looking outside on 7th, on F, on G, around the portrait gallery, and all the monitors were up, and all the people who were watching outside, all the people who were inside. And I think in my life, I don't think there's ever a time where I wanted to be in 2 places at the same time, because I wanted to be where I was, and this is the call I've been waiting for my whole life. But I mean, that's my home, that's my town, that's where I moved to. This is, these are our fans. This is the greatest moment. I can't even imagine what it's going to be like on the streets in about 7 minutes if this thing gets to the house. And I really thought it did. Once Eller scored, I was like, it's game over. They're not going to score again. I don't care what happens. There's no way they're going to score again. So I kind of knew. I was like, you look at what's going on out there. It's like, man, I'd love to be on the streets tonight out there. The only thing that would have made it better, it was great to win in Vegas. I would love, before my career is over, I would love to see them win one at home. That's the only thing we were missing on that run, is we didn't get to do it at home. But it was an unbelievable feeling watching them celebrate, going down on the ice, all the players' families at the hotel immediately thereafter. Ovi leads the conga line out of players. He grabs the cup. He's like, all right, see you later. And they went to see Tiesto and all the things that they ended up doing that night. But it was just a surreal moment from the time Eller scored all the way through when we got on the plane to come home. It was just an unbelievable, I'll never forget. It's the best hockey memory I think you could ever have.
That's just so cool. I feel like that's just so cool that you got to be there and experience that and call that. So, well, you just mentioned a lot of the fun that you had in 2018, but one of the stories that we got from Joe B was about an off-camera moment that, wasn't there. And I'm sure you're around a lot when the cameras are rolling, but you're also around a lot when they're not. So what's your favorite off-camera moment from the 2018 Cup run or Cup celebration?
Well, it's funny because it really wasn't off camera, but I don't know that it was, you really picked up on it. Joe B was there, actually. We were on stage at the rally and introducing players. And I can tell you that the blood alcohol content on that stage was rather high for those who were sitting behind us. And there was, you had Joe B on one side, and you had me on the other. So we would introduce guys. We took turns. We shared the mic essentially for that entire thing, start to finish on stage. And so when the player introductions come up, there were a number of players who talked that day. And Alex Ovechkin, of course, was the last to go. And we were all thinking, hey, listen, you've got to, with the booze is flowing, everybody's feeling pretty good. And you're just kind of wanting to get through without any serious F-bombs or anything along those lines. And Ovi said what he said, and it was relatively tame. And I remember like the music had started to come on. The music's kind of off. I'm off stage, and the music's behind me. And I remember Ovi looked over at me as if, and if you look at the camera, like, you don't know he's talking to me, but he kind of, with his hands, he's like doing this. And he's like, bring the music down, essentially. He's using his hands, like, bring the music down. He had one more thing to say, because he was kind of being played off almost. And the one more thing to say was something along the lines of, we aren't going to be sucked this year, but that wasn't the only thing he said, of course. And I laughed because when I turned around and I told the music people, I was like, well, this ought to be interesting. Let's see what happens here. And then he hits the line. I was like, well, okay. We kind of thought that was going to happen, but that was probably of the run of all of the things that happened. The other thing, I guess, would be the silver medal would be in Pittsburgh when I'm calling the game and Kuzi scores. Ken Sabrin, who is my partner and has been for the last 11 years, he played for the Caps as a defenseman. And Sabby didn't have a lot of goals, didn't have a lot of assists. What Sabby had was a ton of penalty minutes. He is a big guy, big hands, and he can clobber you still if he wants to. And when Kuzi scored, I am in the middle of making the call. And as I'm saying what I said, demons have been exorcised and all of that, Kenny is just beating on my shoulders. Like, he's behind me and just like, they did it. Like, he's just hammering down on me. So as I'm talking, I'm just getting beaten down like this. And hopefully, because the headset's on, I wasn't off mic or anything, but it was rather interesting that I was just trying to survive there for a minute, because obviously it was a very exciting moment.
That's awesome. The we're not gonna be sucked next year or this year line is definitely legendary. So you've already mentioned them, and we've already talked about them, but you've had some insane calls over the years, and they personally give me chills every time I hear them, such as after winning the cup, and like you said, after Kuznetsov's overtime goal in Pittsburgh. But you already answered this, so you said that you don't have something in mind, you're coming up with it on the fly, but I guess, could you describe, like, I'll come up with a different question, like, what's like flowing through your head, like, as you're thinking of what to say in that 60 seconds that you have?
Yeah, there's no real making it up, because it's life's drama, right? I mean, we don't know if the Caps going to win or lose. We don't know who's going to score. We don't know how it's going to end. And, the only time that you really have to think about it is, like we had when Eller scored. You've got about 7 minutes to maybe kind of reflect in your head and realize the gravity of the moment, going, my God, they're actually going to win this thing after everything that's gone on with this franchise since 1974. This is actually ending. This is actually going to happen. But I think the one that I would give you too, and I think this is a fear and a dread that only people like Joe B and myself experience, is when you have milestone goals or something's coming. And I'm talking about Alex Ovechkin here, when there is, for me, 400th goal, 500th goal, 600th goal, 700th goal, a goal that pushes him ahead of Marcel Dion for, 6th all time, Hall for 5th all time, 4th all time, up the list. And those are the ones that we wake up at 3 a.m. in a cold sweat, because those are the ones you got to get right, because those are the ones that long after we're dead, those are going to be around. And we want to make sure that those are right. So when Ovi is sitting on the first really big one I had, and I mean, it's a big one for all of us, when he got to 499 and he had scored in overtime in New York and coming home to see Ottawa. And you're like, by the time from the time I got on the bus at Madison Square Garden until the time of the Ottawa game and when he actually scored, I don't think my only thought in my head for those 2 days was, oh my God, just let it be clean, let it be easy, let it be, listen, I mean, pucks go, I mean, anything can happen in the game of hockey. There's a little tip off a stick. It goes off somebody's ass. I mean, it can happen at any point. And you want to make sure that at this particular moment, whatever God you pray to, you want to make sure that this is going to be right. And 500 was cake. Easy, because it's power play, winds it up. The whole world sees it coming. Big shot, boom. You're like, so that Ovi's happy, the crowd's happy, they celebrate at the bench. But Joe B and I are happy too because it was easy, and that's what we want. So when you get those moments, you want them to be clean. Now, 600 was a little different because 600, he just got right at the front of the net. He comes in, it was a shot, it was a rebound against Winnipeg, and it was thankfully also at home. 700 wasn't at home, it was in New Jersey a couple years ago. And it was a garbage game, boys. I mean, sometimes they're just not that great. Game in New Jersey, a day game in New Jersey. New Jersey is winning after 2 periods going into the third. He hadn't scored in a few games, and he had a little bit of a drought going into it. So your mind, like, you got to stay mentally sharp. And I tried to, but I mean, we're sitting there in New Jersey going, oh, this is just one of those games. Like, it's not going to go the Caps' way. And it didn't, by the way. They lost. But you're just waiting. So Jensen had kind of worked in behind the net, and it was out, boom, score, 700. And it was in the third period of a game that was kind of sleepy anyway. And it was clean, so I was happy about that. But it was one of those that you kind of had to be, you weren't necessarily ready for. I'm going to say I was ready for it, but it was like you're kind of lulled into a little bit of a sleep there where you're just, you're waiting for the team to wake up and things weren't going, and all of a sudden, that's what Ovi does. Boom. So, yeah, you got to be ready. And whatever happens and whatever's thrown at you, you just got to be ready for what's next. And that's the whole job, whether you're, play-by-play, even color, but really on play-by-play, we are only as good as the last 5 seconds of our career. And as long as we keep hitting that, we get to hang around. And we like our job, so we would like to do that.
It's funny that you say that about how you have to, be ready at all times, because it's actually funny. Today's the 16-year anniversary of the, that day in the desert, Ovechkin's arguable greatest goal of all time. And that game was, it was practically over. There was, third period, and we were up 4 or 5 to 1. And, everyone was like ready to get out. And Joe B was telling us this when we had him on, how Locker had like already packed up his briefcase and was ready to, get back on the plane to go. And, Joe B's like wired on the game. He's like, you got to be ready at all times because, you never know. Like, you could blink 1 second and then the greatest goal scorer of all time could score his greatest goal of all time. It's like, you got to be ready for anything and everything.
Yeah, and one of Joe B's greatest calls ever, by the way. And
100%.
I wish I had been here for that one. I wasn't here yet. But you got to react to whatever happens next, like I was just saying. And what he did on that play, you can't ever think was going to happen. And Joe's call, simply sensational. That's about as good as it gets. And
that's our intro audio. His simply sensational goal call is our episode intros, like before at the beginning of every episode. It's just awesome.
Brilliant. And it's funny because, I've had a chance to work with Brian Boucher in my work at NBC, and he, of course, was the goalie for that. And Wayne Gretzky is the coach. And you just kind of feel, look, boys, I'm a little bit of cosmic, little bit of, in terms of things happen for a reason. But, the guy he's chasing right now, I think you could say in his career, at least in terms of regular season, that's pretty much the most amazing goal that maybe an Alex will ever score. And he did it with Gretzky on the bench, and a guy that ultimately he's got to take down here in the next couple of years. And it just feels like one of those moments that says, you know what, I'm going to come get you one day. And it was so early in his career, but it's amazing that Gretzky was there and was actually coaching against the Capitals that night. So I really think that that's what you got to do. I mean, every moment that happens, you got to be in that wheelhouse and ready to go. And that's, it makes our job exciting. It's never the same job twice. I mean, no matter what game and no matter how boring it may appear. And some nights it just isn't, there's nothing much going on out there. I think of a game right before the pause where the Kings were in DC, and through 2.5 periods, maybe 2.25 periods, like into the third, is like, this is one of the worst games I've ever seen. Like, the Caps couldn't do anything. The Kings didn't do much. It's just like watching grass grow might be more exciting. And then Alex just comes in and ends up scoring 3 goals. Boom, 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 hat trick. And, it ends up, you're electrified. And that's what makes hockey so great because, listen, any sport can have a bad game, but our game can turn it around on a dime. And we got to be ready for whatever happens.
Yeah. I mean, obviously a few may come to mind, but what would you say is your most memorable or favorite Capitals call ever?
There have been a few. I mean, there's some obvious ones. I mean, I remember seeing Kuzi after the game in Pittsburgh after the Demons call, and I ran into him on the loading dock in Pittsburgh as we were getting on the bus, and I hugged him and I said, "Thanks for giving me the best call of my career." And I meant it, and I liked it just because the moment and everything that it stood for. But I think some of the highlights. I mean, 500 for me with Ovi. Any of the milestone goals. There was one that I really enjoyed prior to winning the Cup, and the Islanders were here in the first round in 2015, and it was a great series, like Caps Islanders, and it was the Coliseum, and they were shutting it down. Little did we know we'd be coming back, but we thought it was the end of the road for the Coliseum, and the Islanders end up forcing a Game 7, and you come back here, and the Caps, it was one of their best defensive performances of all time, and the game's still tied in the third period, and Kuzi cuts down and scores, and it was the Evgeny means necessary by coming in and scoring to give them the regulation win in Game 7. This team doesn't have a lot of good Game 7 memories, at least not before 2018. And that was a big one. And I had gotten to see, a couple others. I guess if I had to say my favorite, because I just got here in 2011. So this is 11 seasons, 10 years, 11 seasons. So the first time I get here and Bruce was still the coach, and I had been with Bruce and Hershey, and I was like, this is great. Like the coach is a terrific friend. And I'm, here are all these guys I knew in Hershey that play for the Caps. And my first year was crazy because Bruce got fired at Thanksgiving. Dale Hunter took over. The team really wasn't very good. They were outside the playoff picture in March. And you're like, we're not even going to make the playoffs this year. And they snuck in the last 10 days of the season. They lost their number 1 goalie, Tomasz Fakun. They lost their number 2 goalie, and Michael Neuwirth. And we're down to the third string goalie to start a Stanley Cup playoffs. So we're not going to hang around long, right? But that one guy, that third stringer was Braden Holtby. And his Bruins dominance started in that 2-week stretch. And I was sitting there. I've been waiting to be in the NHL my whole career. And here I am calling a Game 7, my very first Game 7 in Boston. Tyler Seguin had scored the game winner in Game 6 for the Bruins, and now we're going back. And I was like, I'm kind of playing with house money because I'm hearing from a lot of friends and colleagues around the league who I got to know in year 1 is like, hey, listen, there's nothing like a Game 7. Enjoy it. And I'd had a few in Hershey, but this is obviously different. And Joel Ward in Game 7 in Boston in 2012 was insane because I have so many good memories from that. It was my first Game 7, first playoff series. Caps win. Bruins were the defending champs. I remember riding out to Logan for the flight home, and John Carlson and Mike Knuble are playing my call over and over in the back of the bus, and I'm hearing it. And I thought, this is the coolest thing ever because I hadn't been here 9 months yet. And here's this epic game-winning goal on the road, and the Capitals never win Game 7s, and here they did win a Game 7, and I got to see it. and Knuble was going on about it, and they're all roughing me up as we got off the bus to get on the plane. I was like, man, I hope there's more where this came from. And the next round against the Rangers was good too, but they ended up losing Game 7. But Joe Ward's probably it. If I had to say outside of 2018, Wardo, and who's just such an unbelievable guy and one of my favorite people since I've been here, player or otherwise. The fact that he got it at that point in his career I think that's probably the best.
Has sidetrack, has Kuzi, like, if you've seen him after those calls, has he said anything to you about either the Evgeny means necessary or the demons have been exercised calls?
No, I don't know that I don't think he's glued to it. I don't know that he's,
yeah.
I mean, if it makes it on social media, maybe he does. I mean, on Twitter, maybe he heard it. I never asked him, to be honest, but I think one of the things, guys, kind of to that end was, the Caps digital people did such a great job that summer of capturing all the videos and the cup and players' hometowns and all that stuff. I think one of the coolest things for me was watching Nick Backstrom with his family in Sweden, and him, like, the call, you can hear my call, like they're watching the video and my call and watching him tear up, and those kinds of moments for me are where it's at. Like, if you hit it right, I mean, obviously the moment, I mean, if you're just watching the video, it's just video, but the sound, if you capture it just right and it hits somebody like Nick Backstrom just right, or Alex or anybody, then you feel like you did it right. So yeah, that's any of those. I don't care if they ever say anything about it. As long as the fans appreciate it, that's the most important to me.
We do.
I appreciate that.
So, as an announcer, you kind of have a unique perspective on casting and such, and radio and television, etc. And when I think of my favorite calls, I actually think of the demons have been exercised. The Minneapolis Miracle call comes to mind. Diggs sideline touchdown. I mean, what a moment. The Joe B call of, actually, I love the call against the Devils with the dangle goal, Danglicious. I love that call. What about you? Could you give me a few, inside or outside of hockey, calls that you feel like really did it right, other than yourself, that you just really like as calls?
Well, I have some Minnesota Twins bias here. You go to your first baseball game when you're 7 and you just can't quite shake it, no matter how bad they may be. But I have been a Twins fan my whole life. And Jack Buck had an air of simplicity about his call that was just so elegant and so, I mean, listen, we can come up with all the words we want, Anglicious or anything else, but what made Jack really good was he didn't overflow with much. I mean, it was simple, to the point. And in Game 6 in the 1991 World Series, I was in college, and the Twins were playing Atlanta in the World Series, and they had won in '87, which feels like 1,000 years ago to me now, because I was like, oh, the Twins ever win every few years. This is great. And I've been sitting here for 31 years now, so I had hair and then some the last time that they won. But Game 6, Kirby Puckett makes a catch at the wall that could have put Atlanta even further ahead, and then with the game tied and they go to the 10th inning and the Twins have to win to force Game 7. Kirby hits one over the left center field wall at the Metrodome, and the place goes bananas. I was at my dorm at Miami University also going bananas, but Jack Buck's call, which still lives on in Twins history, and listen, the radio call was terrific too. John Gordon was the radio guy for the Twins, and it was just touch them all, Kirby Puckett. And that was great. I mean, he's going crazy. The dome's going crazy. But Jack Buck, it was so simple, and it still gives me chills. I will still get a lump in my throat and a tear in my eye when I watch it. It's Puckett swings, and there it goes. And all he says is, fly ball, left center field, and we'll see you tomorrow night. And that's it. And Joe Buck, obviously his son, and Joe I want to say it was the 2015 World Series. I know the Texas Rangers were involved. I don't remember the circumstance, but it was the same thing to force a Game 7. And he used his dad's call exactly. And I got like, that blew me away because everybody else would have been like, whatever. But if you're a Twins fan, you knew exactly what he was doing. And it meant so much to me in 1991. And it meant a lot to me even when Joe did it in 2015. Sometimes the calls that are the best are the simplest. It doesn't have to be anything that's over the top. Sometimes you let the crowd speak for itself too. Like just being able to listen, even on radio, sometimes letting the crowd play to it a little bit helps.
I think everybody in this call are like Joe Buck is actually good crew. I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of people that don't like Joe Buck, but I actually really enjoy.
I don't know why. He's great. He's a legend.
Joe's a pro. I mean, everything about him. I think, you know what, boys, it brings up a good a thing though too. Like, listen, if you're a Caps fan, like you love Joe and you love me, and you know, because we're Caps announcers. I mean, it goes without saying that. I mean, if we're excited, you're excited. But when the national call comes in, sometimes people give the national guys a tough time because they've got, if it's a game against Pittsburgh and Sidney Crosby scores and you're blowing up a goal for Sidney Crosby, you're like, well, wait a minute. But that's the job. I mean, I've done enough national stuff to know that, I mean, we're, even when I was doing Caps games, like I got to put on my neutral hat and I got to, whatever happens. And you can't slight the other team if it's a national call. And Joe's done a ton of national stuff too, where we've got to, sometimes we was like, oh, why are you so excited for, Florida goal? Like Joe's doing a national game and the Panthers score 3 times. He's excited for Florida. Well, that's his job. I mean, if it's a national call. So the national guys sometimes get a little, and Joe Buck's certainly one of those. Sometimes it just, they're going to get static because they're not the hometown guys. And it's that simple. We get the love from Caps fans because of who we are and who we represent. And the national guys just don't have that.
Makes sense. So you mentioned it before, but in your time with the Bears, they won 3 Calder Cup titles in 06, 09, and 2010. But you already touched on it a little bit, but what were those experiences like? And do you have any favorite memories from any of those cup runs or just your time in the Bears organization in general?
Yeah, they were all pretty good. I mean, they taught me how to win. I mean, how to get ready for a call in 2018 with the Capitals because I had to make that call in 2006 and I made it in 2009 and in 2010. And 2010 was probably the best just because they won so many games. They won 60 out of 80 in the regular season and 16 more in the playoffs, 76 wins. They just couldn't lose seemingly. And there were so many guys that came through that played for this team. Like Mike Green was there in 06 when we won, and Carlson and Alsner were there in 09 and 10, and Michael Neuwirth was there. Braden Holtby was there. Jeff Schultz was there. Thomas Fleischman was there. There were just Dave Steckel was there. There were so many guys that it was fun to be at that level with them and then watch them do what they did, and getting to this level, especially for a guy like Carlson who, ended up winning a couple of times there, but then ends up winning here too. And that was great. And, being with Braden Holtby when he first came in, I mean, Braden wasn't even our starter. That's how good we were. We had, Semyon Varlamov and then Michael Neuwirth and then him. That's some pretty good goalie development. So that 5-year period was the greatest in AHL history. And the fact I got to be there to call it was easily the luckiest thing that's ever happened to me in my career, because to be in a situation like that where you see so much good hockey in such a short amount of time, that's pretty special.
Definitely. I mean, do you have a favorite thing about announcing, or just kind of announcing hockey, or just announcing in general?
Well, there's a lot of good ones. Mike Emmerich is the best ever all time. Nobody's ever topping that, just because of his way with words, his inflection, his joy for hockey. He was a friend to me when I was in Hershey, even before I got here. He lived in Hershey for 5 years, and, getting to know him around the Bears was a great privilege for me. And then I got to be around him here for another 10 years, him doing national work and me doing the Caps. So he's very good. I grew up, at a time where I would listen on the radio at night to Ken Wilson in St. Louis and Dan Kelly. And, my favorite announcer really of all time, just because, he wasn't even a hockey announcer, but Marty Brenneman called Cincinnati Reds games, Hall of Famer. Marty would not back down to anybody. He would call it like he saw it. he would rip. Didn't matter if you were Ken Griffey Jr. or the superstar on the team, he'll rip you. And if the player comes after him and says, "Hey, why do you rip me?" He'd tell you exactly why. He'd rip you a new one, and then he'd probably tell his friends about it. That's a swagger that I don't have. I mean, and I don't know that anybody does. But his call was just his voice. He's from North Carolina. He's just got just a little bit of a hint of Southern drawl in an otherwise just unbelievably great voice, the perfect voice for baseball. And I got to work around him for 7 years working with the Reds, and I sat right next to him, and I learned so much being around him. And he's probably my favorite of all time in terms of a broadcaster. But in terms of hockey, I mean, there's a lot of good ones in the game. Brendan Burke is, not just when I got here, I mean, he was still in the minors in the AHL. But he's, truly one of the best in the game at this point and does a lot of games on TNT. There's so many good analysts out there. Eddie Olczyk is just so good at what he does. And Brian Boucher is so good at what he does. And I've gotten to work with just about all of them at this point. I worked with Darren Pang. He's unbelievable. I mean, there's just some guys, and they're just good people too. I mean, you go into a booth and if you put on a show and you hope that people receive it well. I've gotten to work with most of them at this point that I, either grew up watching. I mean, I remember, being your age and, watching games on ESPN, and then you end up working with most of them in your career. And those are the moments I think that might be the most fun to me.
Yeah, you mentioned Doc Emmerich, and I remember I did appreciate him when he was there. There were like just moments where I was like, that's awesome. But I think the 2021 playoffs was the first playoff without him, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, last year.
And there was a Nathan McKinnon goal against the Knights where he just skates by everybody and just destroys them. And I don't even know if Doc would have been calling that game. But I just felt like in that moment, I was like, dang, like I wish we still had him. Like that would have been just such another cool moment for him to have. He really is, when it comes to hockey announcing, just like just the gold standard.
Yeah, he is. There's no question.
So let's go back to the Caps. It hurts to talk about other teams doing well for too long. Ovechkin has what, 750?
756.
756 now. Yeah, it just keeps going up. What's your favorite ever, all time, of all those 756 goals?
Oh boy. I mean, milestone goals are easy, I guess. I mean, you know what? If I had to say, probably 500. It was just.
I was there.
Yeah, I think of all of them. I mean, look, anything in the 2018 run is great. I mean, he ended up with 14 of them, and that any one of those probably, and certainly in the final against Vegas, but 500 was just a thing of beauty. The one I'm looking forward to most, guys, is 895, because there are a lot of guys who haven't gotten to call the Stanley Cup, but there's a lot that have, and I am thankful forever that I am in that group. There are very, very, very few people, like less, fingers left over on two hands, that have gotten to call an 800th goal. And a record breaker, Gary Thorne called it on ESPN back in the day when Gordie Howe was passed by Wayne Gretzky. I want that call. I want to be able, that's the one. There is no topping that. It might even be, I won't know until I get there, I guess. And I think he's going to get there. But I think even maybe more than a Stanley Cup, to be able to document and voice that kind of hockey history, that's no one else. I mean, you're talking not even, you got fingers left on one hand of people who've been able to have a moment like that and call it and have it live on forever. And I hope, sometimes the TV guys get bumped for national. Let that be a goal that both Joe and I get to call, because Joe misses a couple here and there because of national things that have to get fulfilled. But I hope we both get a chance. I hope we can both sit back after the game and then go have a glass of wine of Joe's choosing and say, you know what, we just did that. That's the one I want to do, 895.
Let's hope your voice doesn't crack.
Trust me.
Don't say that.
Fear. If I
Don't
got
say that.
laryngitis the day before, only my wife, I'll be miserable. She's going to have to keep me in line, because whenever my throat's not great, I'm really grumpy to be around. So
Your voice is going to be gone for a week after that call.
Yeah, and that's okay. As long as you get the call right, I don't care. The rest of it, no one's gonna
Worth
remember.
it.
I
Completely
can't
worth
wait
it.
to hear it from both you and Joe B.
Let's do a when we get date 95, we'll do a dual show. Have us both back, and we'll both talk about it.
Sweet. I made a promise to Joe B when we had him on that I would get his 895 goal call tattooed when that happens. And I'm standing by that.
You gonna get a matching one? You know, for
Yeah, one on each arm or something. Might have
I
to.
make no such promises. I don't.
Am I up?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So obviously 2018, like Jake said at the beginning, is, up there as the top memory and experience for all Caps fans. But what would you say your favorite Caps memory is outside of 2018? I know you said Joel Ward's goal and just other things, but outside of 2018, I guess what's another memory that you really like?
Boy, they all seem to be around playoffs. I mean, Kuzi's goal in 2015 was good. Joel Ward had a goal in the last minute in New York in game 1 that year in the second round, which came out of nowhere. And, I think any moment I've always liked it. And I liked it when Kuzi scored in Pittsburgh, because a lot of people had asked me, well, it was great, but wouldn't it have been great if it could have been at home? And I was like, no, because watching everyone in Pittsburgh angry, quiet, and leaving was wonderful. As crazy as it would have been at Capital One Arena, those kinds of moments on the road sometimes are best. I mean, there have been so many. Big comebacks and thrilling games, anything involving Ovi. I've gotten a couple of Ovi 4-goal games, one against Montreal, one against Tampa Bay. Those are, kind of hockey history in and of themselves. So, and then, like I said, the milestone goals. I think those are the ones that, 500, 600, 700, someday soon, maybe next year, hopefully next year, probably next year, 800 next year. Those are the ones that, those get your blood going. I mean, when you've got, when it's at 799, that's a natural high that, if you're a broadcaster, like, okay, every time he's on the ice, we're just, all right, where's it coming? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? We're always watching in a moment like that. And those are some of the best memories, I think.
Do you have any ideas in mind for 895? Have you been woken up in a cold sweat at 3 a.m. and thought about that yet?
Not yet, but I'll keep you posted.
Right.
As long as I get a chance for it, that's all I can ask for.
I hope it's a one-timer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not at all unclear. I don't want no tips, no.
Was it a high stick?
Yeah, not something that it just hits a stick on the way by. That's
Dude, imagine like a post-goal offsides call. Dude, we would erupt.
I think that ref would genuinely not do that. Like, they'd be terrified.
Yeah, if it was ever something where they reviewed it and changed it later, the Caps would need 2 new play-by-play guys, because Joe and I would incinerate right on the spot. We'd be done.
I was thinking maybe like if it's an empty netter where he just like skates it in and it's just like you get to take in the moment. I think that could actually be
400 was an empty netter. Funny enough. That was my first real milestone. He was at 3-something when I got here.
I don't even know if I've seen that one.
Yeah, it was in Carolina.
I need a clap bomb.
400.
I won't accept anything else except for
anything other than a one-timer from the left, sir. I respect it.
Nothing other than a 1T.
If he gets some crazy dangle.
If he has the chance to get like an empty netter from mid ice, I don't want him to take it. Like that could be the one time. That can be the one time you pass. Just wait till next game. Like I don't want that.
Do you have a favorite goal that was scored against the Caps over the past few years?
Against?
Yeah.
I don't like
Right
any
answer.
of them.
Fair enough.
Right answer.
I don't
That's
like
correct.
any of
No,
them.
I don't. I mean, look, I get paid by the Capitals every 2 weeks, so I would like to anything that goes against Washington. I'm not a big fan of, and I've been doing this long enough, and I know how much it means to people and how much it means to me. So, no, not even a milestone. Like Yager had one of his last goals against the Caps, and on his journey to third all time. But nah, I don't need any of those.
I like
Good
it.
answer.
Good answer.
So, you said you grew up in Minnesota and were a North Stars fan, correct?
Yep.
Okay, I am not a knowledgeable North Stars historian, but who was your favorite player growing up?
Dino Cicerelli, who, funny enough, played here too. But Dino came up with Minnesota, so he had 50 goals his first year and led him into the playoffs. And that was really kind of my coming of age as a Caps fan, or as a North Stars fan, I mean. And he had a great playoff and one of the best Stanley Cup playoffs. They went to the final, but they lost to the Islanders. But Dino, for me, Dino was the best. Little, tough, score a ton. What's not to like?
I love seeing short guys and succeed in sports, being 5'7".
They got to bring back those jerseys too. I know they had them as the reverse retros last year, but those North Stars jerseys are one of the best
They're
throughout history.
as good as they come. They're my
Yeah.
So, what's your? This isn't on script, but what's your favorite Capitals jersey variation of all time?
I like the old school ones myself. The blue one is nice. I like it. It's definitely growing on me. Anything the red, I mean, anything it's based on. But I like the 6 stars across the top, and I hope in the 50th anniversary season that at least gets a little bit of love. And if they wanted to go the old school, like original jersey with the capital type in Washington and then the Caps logo underneath it, I don't mind, like the lowercase capitals across. I don't mind that either at all. That's one of my favorites. But that was when I grew up too. I mean, 80s into the 90s. So I mean, anything in that era, the red. I was never a fan of the copper and black and gold. I didn't like that before I was here, and I'm not a fan of it now, to be honest. But anything involving red, that's the red, white, and blue. I really like the W that they've got now in the third jersey because it's new, it's fresh, it's clean. It's a little more blue based, but it's a red, white, and blue, and we're the American Capitals. So, I mean, that could easily be the standard moving forward if they wanted, and I'd be fine if it was all red and kind of what we've been doing too.
Gotcha. So, throughout your time with the Capitals, who are some of the most pleasant players that you've had the ability to interact and build relationships with?
Oh, there's a bunch. Carl Alsner is one of the best of all time. He's one of the nicest guys, win or lose. He'd talk to you. Matt Niskanen was always a guy that would talk in the room no matter what had just happened on the ice. Jay Beagle might be the nicest human being that's ever thrown on a Capitals uniform. He's definitely there. Matt Hendricks is one. Oh, gosh, I mean, I'd go on for forever and ever. I mean, there's so many guys that, they're so generous with their time. But the guys now, I mean, Garnet Hathaway does so much with first responders, and he's always, the podcast that he and Dowder had was great. It's a tough question. Joel Ward always was just, I mean, if I had to pick one, if you're going to force me to like one guy that's just like, in terms of personality, in terms of interview, in terms of whatever, Joel Ward might be my number one. But there's so many. It's so tough to pick. It's like picking your favorite kid, honestly. There's just so many good ones, and they're always so generous with their time. I will say Jason Chimera might be the craziest guy I've ever seen. Like, he would just run through the room screaming and, like, if you had an interview going and Jason was there, you'd have to always hide because he'd always, he'd come in and try and, rattle the guy you were talking to or rattle you or just yell or whatever. But even he was one of my favorites too. Just such a good guy. I mean, it's all the guys that come through the room. You're glad you get to talk to them every day.
Yeah, if you ever felt like telling some of them to come on the Pizzas Here podcast, I mean, I wouldn't stop you.
Promotion is 100% of what you're trying to do, boys. I'm hip to what you're laying down.
I would not stop you.
Neither would I. I think it says a lot about the game of hockey that everybody we've had on, and the Caps organization, everybody we have on, it's like, when we ask a question, like, do you have a favorite player, like a player relationship, they're all just like, oh, who do I list? they could go on and on about all of the great guys in the game. You know, it's really.
Oh
It's really
God,
just-
I didn't even bring up Nate Schmidt. Come to think of it, oh my God,
I
didn't-
miss him. I really miss him. Like, obviously I don't know him, but on ice I miss him. He was great.
He's going to be in television someday. The second his career is over, he's going to be on TV somewhere. He's never not smiling.
You heard it here first.
Do you have I mean, this kind of goes along with the favorite goal against the Caps, but do you have a favorite playoff series you've ever watched that didn't include the Capitals?
Oh, I'm sure. Minnesota in 91 was the 8th seed, and in succession beat the second best record in the league, the President's Trophy winner, and the defending Stanley Cup champ. So I thought I was about to see a Stanley Cup winner as a fan, and I was really excited. And then Mario Lemieux was standing in the way, and the Pittsburgh Penguins won their first cup in 1991. So my disdain for Pittsburgh goes back long before I got here. But yeah, that was a great run anyway for Minnesota. Trying to think of a playoff series. You know what? Like the Kings and what they did and some of the runs they had in 2012 and 2014, that was just an amazing run, both of those years, but really in 2012. And St. Louis, honestly, when they won in 19, their play-by-play guy on radio was a classmate of mine at Miami University, Chris Kerber. And he got a year after the Caps won, the Blues won. And it was really cool that he and I got to do that in back-to-back years. So St. Louis winning in the final, I think, would probably be, in recent times, that would be 1-2.
That Minnesota series against Colorado that year, I don't remember what year it was. That was a crazy one. I don't know if anybody...
Earlier, like Minnesota's first playoff series, the Wild. 03,
was
maybe?
it their first? I was pretty young. I don't.
I think it was
I don't
03.
know.
I think it was 03. Minnesota had a pretty good run there. Andrew Burnett scored a big goal in that one.
I'd have to go look at YouTube videos or something if it's the one I'm thinking of. So, who inspired you to become a commentator? Is there anybody in particular? Is it something you always wanted to do, or what's the story behind like what inspired you to go do what you do today?
I was always inspired by mass media and my love of hockey. So I think it started at a pretty young age. And I would say, Ken Wilson in St. Louis. I mean, if you ever heard Kenny call games, you'd probably hear a lot of me because I think I patterned myself a little bit after him because he was a hero of mine. But no, I kind of knew from the time before I even got to college. And then once I got the opportunity to start doing it, I was like, I wanted to find a way to do this. I didn't know the way, but I was going to keep trying, and it worked out pretty good. I ended up getting here.
That's awesome. So that brings us to everybody's favorite part of the episode. And today, John so nicely agreed to do our Manscaped read. So whenever
So you
you're
guys
ready,
are sponsored, right? This is
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
keeps the show going. So me doing
Yeah.
this spot for Manscaped keeps the Pizzas Here podcast moving forward. Is that the way I understand it?
you're helping the
Yeah.
cause.
You're helping the cause.
Okay. See, when Keith Olbermann, before he was doing politics, he did ESPN2. He was the first ever show on ESPN2. And he said at the beginning when ESPN2 launched in 1993, I'm guessing, I think it was 93. He said, "Hello and welcome to the end of my career." That might be what I'm doing right here from the read here. But that's I've got this. I've got it in front of me, so I just got to read this. Right? That's what you need for me
Yes,
to do.
sir.
Okay. Well, here it goes. Manscaped, take one. Here we go. Cheers to 2022 and resolutions you can actually keep. How about having clean and shiny balls all year round? Our sponsors at Manscaped are here to save your balls this year and make the ball drop into 2022 the cleanest and sexiest ever. Set your first New Year's resolution with good intentions and join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code PHP for 20% off plus free shipping. Again, get 20% off and free shipping with the code PHP at manscaped.com and tell them John Walton sent you.
I think hearing you talk about clean and shiny balls is the highlight of my life up until
Oh
this
my
point.
god, that was
I
awesome.
mean, you know what? I'm a different person than I was 60 seconds ago.
That
So
was
there
awesome.
you go. If that doesn't,
amazing.
move product, boys, I don't know what does.
That was amazing.
You've made my
I'm not saying I have
2022
any
already.
favorite guests, but
You're the first guest to read that, so
Well, you know what?
congratulations.
There we go. No
There
problem.
you go.
I've read sillier spots in my life, boys. We got lots of spots. Working in the minors, you never know. I've read like the first ever sponsor for there was a team called the Carolina Monarchs, Bible Belt Country, North Carolina. And my PR guy, my first ever job in the American League in Cincinnati, he had to sell the media guide sponsorship and he didn't know where to go and he needed one. And he ended up, this is in the middle of Bible Belt Country, North Carolina, had a strip club on the back page of the media guide, like the outside cover, that if you had it on your desk, it was Carolina Monarchs. You turn it over, it was an ad for a strip club. So whatever in the name of hockey keeps us all moving forward, I am all good with.
That's awesome. Thank you for that.
You got it.
So our Capitals haven't had the greatest week, I guess we could say. So Joey, our fourth member who isn't here with us today, he has a mild concussion right now. So, we hope he gets better and all of our thoughts are with him. But
blame Tom Wilson.
yeah,
It's just a hit that he shouldn't have
Tom
happened.
Wilson actually is getting suspended for Joseph's concussion, but nah. So Joey and I went to the Caps game on Monday where we played the Bruins and got absolutely curb stomped 7-3. And then Saturday we won on Long Island 2-0, and then today we lost to the Canucks and Bruce Boudreau 4-2. So if any of you guys have any thoughts quick about this past week of games, feel free to share. But not the best outings from us.
I think the safest thing to say is that I'm a good luck charm because I was flying during the Bruins game. I watched the Islanders game, and I was playing in that Rocket League tournament for the Canucks game today.
Which you won and made money for.
Yeah,
Shout out
$400
Will.
for playing a video game is kind of crazy. But
Shout out Will.
but yeah, as far as what I did see some of the Canucks game. I saw they scored 2 power play goals. Granted against the league worst penalty kill, but that is a step in the right direction. I watched the whole power play where Ovechkin scored, and it was a good looking power play, which is important. I don't really know what happened 5-on-5. To be totally honest, I feel like the injuries are finally catching up to this team. They were playing at a level that just felt unsustainable given the injuries they had. I mean, you were missing Mantha for a long time. You're missing Backstrom. Oshie's been in and out. Literally every player has been in and out of the COVID protocol. I mean, they were playing at a level that was just ridiculous for how injured they were. And even if they weren't injured, even if they were healthy, it was impressive. And that's going to come down. I'm not really that worried about them. Eventually, our guys are going to get back up to speed. We're going to get Mantha back, I hope. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of a, this is reality moment. But that's all I have to say about that.
Will, can I quote your tweet from the other day about Mantha?
What was it?
Will or Joey had tweeted talking about how Mantha was going to come back, and Will had said, "Bro, Anthony Mantha coming back is starting to sound like when I get a girlfriend."
Stay safe out there, boys.
Well, boys, I'll give you my 2 cents, and then I better get my wife to dinner so she doesn't clobber me here. But
okay,
I will say that, look, every season there's a lull in every year, and 82 games is a grind. And sometimes you don't get the goaltending. Sometimes you don't have the power play. Sometimes you got to battle the COVID. That's a new one in my career. I didn't know in the last couple of years that was something you had to do. But they are a good veteran team, and they got a lot of different things that are going well for them over the course of the last 4 months, and a couple in the last 2 weeks that maybe haven't gone as well. But I think by and large, they are still right now, no matter what happens, they're a playoff team. And I think it's going to come down to where they are come the end of April and the 1st of May. as long as you are there, you got a shot. And whatever Brian McClellan does to fortify the cupboard in the meantime, that's what you need to do. And then it's up to the coaches and the players after that. So I am hoping that we'll have another celebration to come here by the time we get to early summer, but we'll see what happens here down the stretch. But it is a lull right now. There's no doubt when they've lost 5 of 6, but that doesn't mean that they won't turn it around here too. And they've got too many good guys in that room. They got to get through this COVID business. Losing Carlson today hurt, but they'll be fine, and we will move forward.
I mean,
agree.
I won't talk about the Bruins game. We look, pretty bad then.
That was
check
the
out
worst
what
experience of my life.
yeah. It's over. We play them again Thursday. In Boston though, so I don't know. But Vanacek third career shutout, right? Pretty sure.
Yep.
I mean, I didn't watch that game because I think that was coming back to school or something. No, I don't remember. But anyway, I mean, they look good from the highlights I saw. Wilson, best goal, and Ovechkin got a goal that game too, so that's great. Best goal scorer of all time, Tom Wilson. And then I think did he get another one today as well, or no?
Yeah, he did.
He did. It's Wilson Ovechkin again. So I mean, at least
We didn't lose today. We actually won. Ovechkin.
We won because Ovechkin scored. So I mean, again,
I think John has to go though. So let's let him go.
Yeah.
But
boys, thanks for having me. It's been.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming on. This is awesome.
And if you want to bring back Joe and I for 895, I think that would be. And we'll have Joe do the Manscaped read next time. He can do that one.
That sounds good. Thank you for coming on today,
Thank you
John.
so much.
We appreciate it. Have a nice
night.
Thank
you so much. Have a nice
night. All right, fellas. Take care. Have a good one.
You too.
You too.
All righty.
Take care.
All right, boys. Let's do one player we liked and one player we didn't like, and then head out. Jake, you can go if you have one, or Will.
Oh, I do.
Wait.
Now let go, Will.
Jake took
Will
EA's
go.
last time, right?
You did. So you
All
can.
right,
do
I think
one
EA
this
should go
week.
before Jake.
All right, fair
you
enough.
can go first, and then I'll go second.
I do have a backup. I have a backup though, so I'm not gonna get too pissed this time.
Okay.
I don't know who I'm picking yet, so I gotta think.
Player I liked. Let's think. I could name a lot of players I didn't like. Let's go Justin Schultz today. He isn't the best, but he quarterbacked the power play really well. And that's something that I feel like has been lacking. I have not been a fan of John Carlson's quarterbacking this year. I mean, he's been awesome usually, but this year not great. Schultz gave Ovechkin 3 or 4 chances right in the wheelhouse, and they scored 2 power play goals today. League worst penalty kill, yes, but you got to do what you got to do. Take advantage of weakness, and Schultz helped us do that. So I'll go with Schultz. Player I didn't like, any goaltender as of recent. Foucault struggled against the Bruins. Or any goaltender that isn't Vanacek.
Not his fault.
Foucault struggled.
Not his
Samsonov
fault.
struggled today. The goaltending has been struggling, and it's been inconsistent, and it's just like, can we just get one guy, be consistent for like 3 or 4 weeks, and just, I want to be like, okay, this is the dude I would start in the playoffs today, and say that confidently, even after they have a bad game, and we just aren't there. I personally am of the opinion that if there's a veteran goaltender, a Marc-Andre Fleury, even a Braden Holtby, maybe. I don't know about that as much, but you could get a guy, go get a guy, because I don't trust this trio, tandem, whatever the hell, to win a cup. So
Whatever
your team is
call it.
too good to not do that. But those are my likes, dislikes.
Okay. For my like,
Sorry.
I don't know exactly. Like there's a couple. I'm gonna say Garnet Hathaway. His blocked shot at the end of the game against, who was it? The Islanders. That blocked shot when they had pulled their goalie. I think they were the team. They had said that they had scored like once they'd pulled their goalie like 6 or 7 times or something absurd, but they were pressuring us a good bit in our offensive zone, our defensive zone, that last like 2 minutes against the Islanders. And Hathaway's blocked shot is what led to Kuzi eventually getting the puck and then passing it to Ovechkin, and Ovechkin getting a goal. And that's all I care about. So I think Hathaway started that play. He also had a really big freaking hit against Ekman Larson today that he ended up getting a roughing penalty for, which is absolute bullshit because he laid out Ekman Larson. he gets back up, starts pushing Hathaway and giving him checks in the ribs. And then when Hathaway goes to do something to him and the guy's helmet falls off because it wasn't on properly, I guess, he gets the 2-minute minor. So that was irritating. But I'm going to have to agree with Will on my dislikes and just say the whole goaltending core as a whole. I mean, all of us as Caps fans have kind of like finally like started to realize and agree that we're probably not going to win a cup with this goaltending unit as the way it's looking right now. They might be able to turn it around. They might be able to somehow get consistent. But if I had to place a bet right now, I don't think we win a cup with these 2 guys or 3 guys. But hopefully I'm wrong. But I just, like Will said, I really want to see some consistency from either one of them and be able to confidently say that that's our guy, that's our starter, that's who I'd put in a Stanley Cup final game right now. But at this point in time, I can't say that about anybody. So, yeah.
No one took mine. I'm very happy. I was gonna say Tom Wilson because I think he's finally got to 10 goals this season. I'm pretty sure with his goal today, and like we know he can produce on offense, and obviously
I think he's at 11 right now with
11.
today.
Yeah, so he's kind of hopefully gonna start heating up soon and kind of be a good top line, forward for us. So hoping, I'm glad he's been scoring now because first off, it gives us a chance to tweet the Pasternak tweet again, but also because, I want to see that from him other than being very physical because obviously everyone knows about him about being physical. So, but if he can produce goals and be physical, that's going to be, he's always a huge asset for us, future captain, but still, I'm glad to see that. Player I disliked, sorry. Man, who do I choose?
While you think, I'll say Ovechkin is right now tied with Leon Draisaitl with 54 points for the NHL lead. McDavid has 53, so Ovechkin is better than McDavid, confirmed. Anything less than the Hart Trophy for Ovi at this point at the end of the season is a letdown. So
yeah, man,
who's your
who do I
dislike,
choose
Jake?
for? Can I
There's
say a
plenty of
specific
people
goalie?
to pick.
Can I say
sure.
Fucali, just Fucali? Because I don't think Fucali.
I would argue with you.
I mean, I know he's a rookie, and I know he's haven't started many.
His
games,
game against
but
Boston was not completely on him.
it wasn't. No, not at all. But
It's pretty hard to save shots when your
there's-
defense lets guys get into the slot untouched.
That's true, but still, I think goalies.
Plus, we were down. His first 2 goals, I believe, were both on penalty kills. So I mean, it's kind of hard to save.
Hard to say.
David Pasternak
our goalies in
general,
general,
one-timers.
Our goalies in general, I'm glad Vitek got a shutout, but
he's still not good enough.
They haven't been like from the beginning of the season, because at the beginning of the season we had this argument I think twice about it was Samsonov and then it was Vitek, and then
every episode
it was like every episode's flipping back and forth, and it was good to see that we had a goalie tandem that was working. And I know we brought up like they're at some point they're both playing well. One of them is going to need to leave, but like now they're kind of starting to. I mean, they're doing the Caps limp. It's the new year. It's almost the All-Star break. We'll see what they do after the All-Star break. But this is the Caps every season. They start kind of limping near the end, and no one really steps up. So we'll see. I mean, I can't really nitpick like a singular person because like the defense sucked. I could say I'll say the defense because of the Bruins game, because we did not play good defense that game. So
yeah. It was the Bruins game was 100% more on the defense than it was on the
yeah.
They didn't play well, but the defense was still definitely the primary issue.
Scherr scored 2 goals in the first like 10 minutes, and then
Sherry was gonna be my pick, but he didn't play the last 2 games. He only played against Boston. Is he in protocol or what?
I think he's in protocol
because he hasn't played the last 2 games, and I was curious. I was confused about that. But
I think because
Oshie had 2 nice ones against Boston. That was
Oshie didn't play today because of COVID as well, right?
He's still injured, isn't he?
Oh shit! No, didn't he play the other day? He scored a goal against the Bruins, didn't he?
Yeah, and then he got hurt with an upper body injury yesterday. He got an upper body injury yesterday, and like after like 2 shifts, and then went out.
Yeah.
But I think that is everything for us.
Yeah.
So
this is a fun episode.
Yeah, 100%.
It was.
John was awesome. And again, thank you to John, and thank you to everyone who's listening right now.
Yeah.
We appreciate each and every one of you very much. And good morning,
Subscribe
good
to our
evening.
YouTube, by the way.
Yeah,
We're
subscribe to our
suffering there. Help
YouTube.
us
I'm sure
out.
YouTube.
Come on, bro.
Good night, Pittsburgh.